Hi guys, welcome to Unashamed Rome 116, where we dive boldly into the Word of God, unfiltered, unpolished, unashamed, because God is unintimidated by our thoughts and our doubts. My name is Elena, and you are welcome to this episode. Today we're discussing Genesis chapter 4. So, Genesis chapter 4, the main themes that really stood out to me was worship. I think it's that one main theme, worship. But first, okay, Genesis 4 verse 1. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain. So the word here is very intimate, knowing, not just and Adam slept with Eve, like he was intimate knowing. And this intimate knowing is also seen in other verses of the Bible when God is saying, be still and know that I am God. It's the same word used there. Intimate knowing brings forth life in every sector of our lives. Even in our work, we get life when we are doing it intimately with God. And then verse 2, and she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And then so we go down to verse 3. It says, and in the process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And verse 4, and Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. Offering. So offering is worship. There is praise and there is worship. So worship is giving ourselves to God, everything of ourselves, our lives, our times, our time, our body, our dreams, our passions, our talents, our traumas, our sins, everything. We just bring it to God, laying ourselves on the altar. So whatever Cain brought was not everything. Maybe it was the fruit that he didn't really like that much. It was like, okay, I've planted so many fruits, but I don't really like mangoes. So I guess I'm gonna give God this mangoes. It was leftovers. It was not worship. But Abel gave the firstborn of his flock and the fat thereof. Like he gave the best that he had. It came from the heart. That's why, like Jesus was saying that even that woman who brought very little money for offering, I don't know if it was 1 coin or 3, that she had given more than any other person because that was like she felt the giving. Like it wasn't just casual giving. It wasn't just, oh yeah, I actually have some spare change. Let me give this to God. I actually have some things, some dirty clothes lying here, some torn clothes, some old clothes lying here. Let me take them to the orphanage. Maybe those kids can know what to do with them. It's giving the best, like something that you really value. That's what Abel gave. And the other is what Cain gave. So, but unto Cain and to his offering, God had no respect. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell. This is actually very beautiful. Like I read this and I was like, this is so amazing because most of us we give offering, we go to church, we worship God, and our service is not acceptable, our worship is not acceptable, but we don't even know. We don't even get angry when we feel like God has not accepted our offering. We don't even feel angry. But Cain, he felt it. And at first I was like, how did Cain know that God had not accepted his offering? How did Abel know that he had accepted his offering? But he just said that God looked with respect to his offering. And there's a verse here, it says, in after Cain was angry, in verse 6, and the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? So Cain knew that whatever he had given was not worship. He gave something, he did not worship God, he just gave. That wasn't worship. And God said, if you do well, will thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. So, as human beings, we are meant to give ourselves to something. We either give ourselves to God, or give ourselves to work, or give ourselves to relationships, or give ourselves to something. So, when we don't give ourselves to God, it says, and unto thee shall be his desire. But when we give ourselves to God, it says, and thou shalt rule over him. And we will rule over sin when we give ourselves to God. But when we give ourselves to other things, we shall fall into sin. It's so powerful. Worship is such a powerful thing. Okay, moving on. Verse 8, and Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? The audacity. And verse 10, and he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me. And now art thou cast from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. And when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. So literally, Cain was cut off from the presence of God. And now we can see here the curse of work. When he works, the earth will not yield for him. So he will be working for work. Like work will be his God, because what did he do? He did not give himself to God. He gave himself to work and put God on the side. So the earth did not yield. The earth will not yield for him. We're going to see that later in verse 17 as we go on. Worship is not about the object, but about the heart. God sees the quality and the motive of what we offer. So when God told Cain what he had done, instead of Cain focusing on God, he focused on himself. And that's why he became very jealous and killed Abel, because he did not feel like maybe there was space for two of them, or he felt like maybe if he wasn't there, then my sacrifice would be the only thing that is there. An amazing thing also, when Cain killed Abel, he was not fighting for God's approval, he was fighting against God's approval. So he was comparing himself with Abel instead of correcting what he was offering, because God knew Cain was a farmer and he knew what Cain could offer and would be acceptable. Even Abel would have brought the sickest, I mean the diseased, the diseased animals to God. But he did not do that. So we should not compare ourselves to other people, because God knows our hearts. We should look at our worship, look at our offering, look at God instead of looking at other people. And then in verse 14, and Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, therefore whatsoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him. Crazy. God really protected Cain and marked him so that no one will kill him. And the way Cain actually said it, it was so entitled. But God was so very merciful. So, verse 16, and Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. So he went away from God's presence. Again, I was listening to um, Miles Monroe's preaching today, and he was saying the first thing that God did when he made man was put man in his presence. And here we can see the very basic thing. The man needs to live is taken away from him. So Cain is away from God's presence. So every other thing that followed, having dominion, being able to bear fruit, every other thing is it's not possible. It's all cursed. That's why you can see now the earth will not bring forth because he has lost the dominion that he had. He cannot multiply, he cannot bear fruit, he cannot rest, he cannot worship because he went away from God's presence. So, and then here we see the children of Cain. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, blah blah blah. Irad begat Mehujael, Mehujael, Methusael, Methusael, Lamech. And then Lamech was the first recorded man that took two wives. Shame on him. So he took two wives, Ada and Zillah, and Ada bare Jabal, and Jabal was the father of those that dwell in tents, and those that have cattle, and his brother Jubal, and then there was Zillah. So, verse 23, and Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech. For I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my heart. So this is the second human murder that we can see. Second murder, actually. The first one was a sacrifice when God sacrificed animals, an animal to cover us. So the first murder was Cain, and then the second recorded one is when Lamech killed a man. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son and called his name Seth. For God said, she hath appointed me another seed, and unto Seth, to him there was born another son. That is the end of Genesis chapter 4. As I said, the main thing that I saw here is worship. Abel teaches us that true offering is laying down the best of what you have. Your plans, your energy, everything, the best that you have, and you just lay it down on the altar before God. It's not about impressing God because you cannot impress the owner of the earth with your offering. There's nothing that God needs from us. There's no money that you can say, I'm donating this to God because literally He has lined the floors of heaven with gold. It's about trusting Him enough to give everything because giving God everything is very deep because you're giving and you know that He will not just take away, but He will multiply. In giving all, God gives us back joy, peace, fruitfulness, even in toil. He gives us rest. We're not burnt out because literally you can see Cain's lineage. It sounds beautiful. We can see all the work that those people were doing and how they were waxsmiths and having cattle and making tents and all that stuff, but they were doing it without God, without God in it. And that was labor, it was not worship. They had no rest. When we withhold, we become like Cain, bitter, empty, burnt out, always working, but never fulfilled. The altar is not just a place of sacrifice, it's a place of exchange. I hope you are blessed by this episode. Don't forget worship and offering. And when God corrects us, let us look at Him and not look at ourselves. One thing to learn from Abel is to give the best that you have. One thing to learn from Cain is to notice when God has not accepted your sacrifice. So until next time, come curious, come messy, come unashamed. Bye bye.